so, but you're not, you don't. I think
Good morning, and welcome to everyone here and everyone joining us online today. We're so glad you're here. I'm Eileen Sorrentino, and I'm a member of the Social Justice Committee, and we are coordinating the service today. We are a people creating beloved community here at First Unitarian Church in New Bedford. We believe in practicing and promoting the Unitarian values of justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity in our congregation, and that those values always spring from the love at the center that guides us all. We are a people of purpose in this church. We work to make sure that everyone feels valued and included in this meeting house, regardless of race, color, nationality, age, physical or mental abilities, gender identity, economic status, how you believe, or who you love. If what you hear today resonates with you, here it is. If what you hear today resonates with you, we hope you will consider being part of this way cool community of seekers and speakers of this long dream. First Unitarian in New Bedford recognizes that the land we inhabit and enjoy sits on the unceded ancestral land of the Wampanoag tribes. We give respect to the people of the First Light and their ancestors and honor them in our church. If you are new and are interested in the church, please fill out a blue card. You'll find them in your pews, and just put them in the collection basket. We have a coffee hour after church, and I hope you'll join us downstairs in the parish hall. Also in the back, we have a labyrinth we've just celebrated our 25th anniversary of the labyrinth. So if you would like a spiritual moment, we invite you to go and walk the labyrinth. We're live streaming, so please, when you come to use the microphone, remember that and speak clearly and slowly into the microphone. Please put your phones in worship mode so we don't get distracted. And I just wanted to add an addition from the Social Justice Committee. Our mission is to unite all those who have been divided by our oppressors, to rise up and to reclaim our rights. We are here to call out all forms of injustice and to acknowledge our interconnectedness. United we stand, divided we fall. Together we are what we cannot be alone. Remember that all forms of oppression are the same, and that oppressors work to divide the oppressed so that they can prevent us from uniting. Would someone come and light the chalice? Somebody? Our usual chalice lighter isn't here today. Thank you for filling in, Charlie. Our opening words are by Dr. Yolanda Pierce. Let us not rush to the language of healing before understanding the fullness of the injury and the depth of the wound. And our opening hymn is number 138, These Things Shall Be.
Shall be a laudable race than e'er the world hath known, shall rise with flame of freedom in their souls, and light our science in their eyes. Nation with nation, land with land, unarmed shall live
as comrades free. In every mind and heart shall throb the pulse of one humanity. High friendship hitherto a sin, or by great poets have divined, shall burn a steadfast star within the calm, clear spirit of the mind. New hearts shall bloom of loftier mold, and mightier music thrill the skies, and every life a song shall be, when all the earth is paradise.
Now I invite you to remain standing and greet one another and welcome each other to the church. And while you're still standing, let's read the covenant together. It's in your order of service. We come together as a religious community, upholding freedom of conscience, right relationship, and the inherent worth of all people. We value our diversity and pledge to care for one another in the spirit of compassion, to speak and listen to each other with respect, and to promote justice and kindness in the world. We invite you now to come forward and light a candle and tell us about a joy or concern that you have in your life.
Hello, everybody. So the 20th is going to be Transgender Day of Remembrance. It is a day to think about the people who have lost their lives to hate crimes. I was at a place just over the weekend in Fall River where it was in City Hall. And one of the main parts of the event was they started reading out the names. And I tried to count them, but then I lost track after like 50, and they weren't even in March yet. So given the state of the nation and the world, especially after everything that's been happening the past week or two, it's going to be, especially for people like me who are trans, it's going to be, frankly, I'm a little bit scared. It's I've heard that whole list be read out, and that number might get even bigger next year. I hope it doesn't, but I think this is just a time during Trans Day of Remembrance that we all remember that we're all human, and that this is a time more important than any other to stick with each other and listen and be there for each other. Thank you.
Good morning. So this is Brown Bear, my son's Dara. This was his lovey, which he snuggled with until the age of 16, when Dara gave him back to me saying, It's time, Mom. I'm 16. But lately, Brown Bear represents two issues for me that I've been thinking about a lot. The many socially posted videos I see of IOF soldiers taking them, then posing and laughing with the loveys and toys after they've shredded the Palestinian and now also Lebanese children who snuggled with them. And two, the call to action from all of us in any way that we can, because suffering anywhere is suffering everywhere. This Holocaust affects us all. Thank you.
I'd like to offer up a joy. I've had a little more time and a teacher to sort of explore religion and faith a little more deeply lately, and that's brought a lot of joy into my life.
And as is our custom, I will light 2 candles, one for those who hold joys and concerns in their heart, and the other for people who have not yet found a wonderful community like this in which to share their hopes and their dreams and their prayers.
Thank you, Randy. Hey, all, I'm Becky. I am part of the Social Justice Committee. I'm going to be reading If I Must Die by Rafat El-Arir, and my goal is to get through it without crying too hard. Rafat passed away on December 6, 2023. He wrote this poem a month earlier for his daughter, who also passed away later after him. Okay, let's see if I can do this. If I must die, you must live, to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left him in a blaze, and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself. Seize the kite, my kite you made. Flying up above, and thinks for a moment. An angel is there, bringing back love. If I die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale. Thanks, y'all.
Annie, would you lead us in prayer and meditation?
This is by Naomi Shahabnai. For Mohammed Zaid of Gaza, age 15. There are no stray bullets, sirs, no bullet like a worried cat crouching under a bush, no half-hairless puppy bullet dodging midnight streets. The bullet could not be a pecan plunking the tin roof, not hardly no fluff of pollen on October's breath, no humble pebble at our feet. So don't gentle it, please. We live among stray thoughts, tasks abandoned midstream. Our fickle hearts are fat. With stray devotions we feel at home, among bits and pieces, all the wandering ways of words. But this bullet had no innocence, did not. It didn't wish anyone well. You can't tell us otherwise by naming it mildly. This bullet was never the friend of life, should not be granted immunity by soft saying, friendly fire, straying death eye. Why have we given the wrong weight to what we do? Mohammed deserves the truth. This bullet had no secret happy hopes. It was not singing to itself with eyes closed under the bridge.
Please observe 30 seconds of silence and meditation.
All right. I'm going to read something by Hala Alyan. She's a Palestinian-American. She wrote this in honor of the 1-year mark of the genocide in Gaza. She's a poet and a clinical psychologist. Oh, okay. A year of slaughter, a year of bombing orphanages and schools and hospitals, a year of being told that we do not in fact see what we see, a year of redactions and metaphors and new ways of saying the same thing, a year of what's a synonym for killed, what's a synonym for stop, What's a synonym for relentless? A year of cagey journalists and elaborately fashioned headlines. A year of children begging for their mothers, their siblings, their lives. A year of marching and a year of billions. A year of blocked aid routes, destroyed infrastructure, and bad water. A year of can you believe who spoke? Can you believe who stayed silent? A year of massacres, absent perpetrators. A year of confessions cloaked as accusations. A year of soldiers wearing lingerie, blindfolded men, assaulted prisoners. A year of bad apples. A year of war criminals lecturing on victimhood, of bombed evacuation routes, shredded babies, mass graves. A year of waiting for the powerful to tell us how many dead Arabs is enough dead Arabs. We are still waiting. We are still waiting. There's nothing noble about any of this, nothing magical or just about the steadfastness of those on the ground. The metric is simple. The world we sanction is the world we get. A year of that world. Thanks.
Please stand as you are willing and able, and we're singing hymn number 137, We Utter Our Cry.
We utter our cry that peace may prevail, that earth will survive, and faith must not fail. We pray with our life for the world in our care, for people diminished by doubt and despair. We cry from the fright of our daily scene, for strength to say no to all that is mean, the signs bearing chaos, extinction of life, all energy wasted on weapons of death. We lift up our hearts for children unborn. Give wisdom to God, that we may hand on, replenished and shended this good planet Earth, preserving the future and wonder of birth.
Now is the time in our service when we ask you for your generous donations to support the good works and the other things that are here for you in this church. And that includes stocking our food pantry, stocking our little library, providing children's books in the thrift shop for $0.25 apiece so that teachers and children can pick them up and read. we use a lot of our, some of our money to provide this beautiful music that we have here with Randy. And Karen provides counseling services, and every week we have streaming services, so the people who cannot join us here in church can share in our worship services. Thank you. Our guest today, who will be delivering our sermon, is Nada Samih-Rotondo. And the name of her sermon is "The Children Are Always Ours."
Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Nada, and I'm happy to travel up here from Providence. It feels very much like divine providence to have been asked to speak here in a church that has hosted 19th century abolitionists, because I see this piece as being in conversation with that time period. Before I get started, so a little more about me. So my name is Nada. I was actually born in Kuwait to Palestinian parents. My grandparents on both sides left during the Nakba of 1948. My grandparents were like in their early 20s when this happened, so very vivid memories of that time, which this all makes its way into my book, All Water Has Perfect Memory. We were displaced once again out of Kuwait in 1990 because of the Iraq invasion, and I ended up in tiny Rhode Island because that's where my uncle happened to be in college there. So we've been in Rhode Island most of my life, and I never, like growing up and as a child, especially after 9/11, which happened my senior year of high school, I grew used to being in spaces where most people didn't even know where Palestine was at all, or what an Arab was, or what Islam was, or anything. So to be here in this moment, as dark as it may be, but to see the giant outpouring of support in voices that don't have to, speak up, but are, about Palestine. It's such an interesting moment to be here as a Palestinian, and I'm so blessed to see the change, the much needed change that is actually happening. Okay, so this is "The children are always ours." The word for land in Arabic is ard. It is multifaceted and means ground, territory, earth, soil, region, state, country. This land knows the storms I am shaped by when I am too close to see my way through. It senses my deepest longing to feel held by land is embedded multiple generations below my surface. The land speaks to the land of my body and knows I am inside out and upside down, night inverted to day, day into night. What was once held tightly inside my body for 10 moons is now on the outside. It was still in the first 40 days after the birth of my son, but the late winter sun was bright, and I needed the fresh air. My husband and I strapped in my bundled up son, snug in his stroller, and off we went, no destination set. The land whispers at first, but gradually its voice grows louder. The land knows I will listen, even when I am not sure how. It is a quickening, a vibration. It is almost a shout when I walk down Chase Street a few blocks from our apartment. I look up and notice the historical plaque on an old farmhouse, seemingly out of place, surrounded by newer raised ranches. The plaque names the Buffum Chase family. I was familiar with the name, as Elizabeth Buffum Chase was a 19th century Rhode Island reformer who advocated for women's rights to vote. Her statue is now in the Rhode Island State House. But before that, she was a radical abolitionist. She was born a Quaker, but eventually left her community because they were not radical enough in their position on abolition. She believed in immediate abolition in a time when most people preferred a gradual change. She held her beliefs so strongly that she brought her anti-slavery work into her home, deliberately conflating her public and domestic duties and molding her children into exemplary abolitionists. Her children were familiar with hiding runaways and were taught how to talk with their school friends about why they should be abolitionists too. It is not known exactly how many fugitive slaves were assisted by the Chase family, but it is clear she intimately involved her children. She organized anti-slavery speaker events, often offering up her house for boarding visitors, including Frederick Douglass. Her home was also a stop on the Underground Railroad, even during the time of the Fugitive Slave Law in 1850, which made it punishable through fines and jail sentences for aiding escaped enslaved people. Yet in Rhode Island and throughout the North, people helped fugitives find a way to freedom. Her children were well-versed on how they must behave if authorities came around, or if the parents were carried off to prison. I learned that while Elizabeth birthed 10 children, the first 5 of them died of various causes. There was a moment when she went from being a mother of 5 to being completely childless before starting a second family, birthing her last child at age 45. I linger in this moment with her, imagining how it must have felt for Elizabeth to go from being an active mother with a home brimming with the hustle of several children to suddenly inhabiting a childless silence. I hold her haunting reality in my heart tenderly, like one delicately cradles a newborn's soft skull, or like how one clings to the shrouded body of your once whole child, moments ago brimming with life. We are now well past a year into this genocide in Palestine. Over 400 days of gut-wrenching violence impacting children. In fact, a recent report in Al Jazeera has found that over 70% of the lives taken in Gaza have been women and children. Information on Elizabeth's personal life is difficult to carry, but much like the news on the genocide, I can't look away. Even by 19th century standards, when childhood death was common, Chase's burden of grief was staggering. What I am learning from Elizabeth and from Palestinians on the ground is what we do with all this grief. It is doubtless that personal tragedy makes us more malleable, more likely to connect with others whose lives seemed much different than ours. Elizabeth believed her personal tragedies drew her closer to the suffering of enslaved mothers who lost their offspring to ruthless slave traders under unspeakable conditions. Like Elizabeth, the more I hold space for another's grief, the more I empathize with another's struggle, despite time or space. The land offered me Elizabeth's story as a blueprint for my own. As her mountain of grief grew, Elizabeth pursued the anti-slavery cause more fervently as it helped her find meaning in life. Given her culture's reverence for motherhood, the death of a child elevated a mother to elect status while the child took on the mantle of sainthood, giving parents hope that their children had not died in vain. This all sounds familiar to me. In Arabic, we use the word shaheed, which means witness or martyr, to describe those whose lives were taken by the Israeli occupation. Interestingly, Elizabeth came to terms with her children's deaths by writing about them for the public in a mothering journal. She conveyed the moment of her son's George's death at 9 years old in excruciating detail as a way to honor his life and give death purpose. While recalling her final moments, she writes, "I stood over him and wiped the cold damps from his face and drew the wet pillow often from beneath his head, and yet I could not believe that death was laying his cold hand upon my darling boy. The doctor's replies to my anxious inquiries told me to prepare for a final earthly separation. I asked him, 'Thee very sick, isn't thee?' And he said yes. I asked him if he was willing to go now, and he said he did. Said I, 'God will take care of thee, will he not?' George said yes." Elizabeth's detailed account of her son's final moments reminds me of the thousands of Palestinians who are creating art, filming videos, and posting on social media as a way to honor martyrs and grieve, all while submitting their fate and trust to God. Palestinians share over and over again glimpses of their heart-wrenching grief with the outside world alongside their resilience in the face of dire conditions and impending death, if only for the sake of bearing witness. After all, isn't the desire to be seen a human trait we all share? Biographer Elizabeth Stevens writes about how Elizabeth's refining grief set her apart from the everyday world, how it rendered her less concerned about what others thought and more empowered to follow the dictates of her own conscience. Elizabeth states, "I believe that the heart-rending afflictions with which I have been visited within the last few years have been instrumental in bringing me to a state of willingness to do my duty even though it lead through deep waters." It is the heart-rending afflictions of destruction and tragedy in Gaza that drive Palestinians toward their duty as well. Palestinians have been recording videos in English, their second language, intentionally to honor the lives of the dead with the hopes of giving those deaths meaning, while asking for the world to notice and take action. Last November, the children of Gaza organized a press conference making a plea to the global community to intervene, to protect them. "The occupation is starving us," said one child during a press conference outside the El Shafifa hospital in Gaza City. "We want medicine, food, and education. We want to live as the other children live." This November, a year after the Palestinian children held that press conference at El Shafifa hospital to denounce Israeli bombings, youth around the U.S., along with healthcare workers and families, honored the youth and healthcare workers with their own press conference demanding an end to the genocidal war on Gaza. Israeli forces have since destroyed El Shafifa Hospital, the largest medical complex in Gaza, after multiple massacres over the past year. Despite the ongoing violence, youth continue to speak out. Even separated by time, I feel as though my conscience vibrates as the same frequency as Elizabeth's because as this genocide reaches horrific peaks, I also find myself less concerned about the frail sensibility of others while feeling more empowered to follow the dictates of my own conscience. It is not just grief, but also motherhood that connects me with Elizabeth, because once you've passed through the physical, emotional, and spiritual portals of motherhood, you can easily imagine every child as your own child. James Baldwin writes, "The children are always ours, every single one of them, all over the globe. And I'm beginning to suspect that whoever is incapable of recognizing this may be incapable of morality." Elizabeth once advised her fellow Quakers that if they were living in indifference to the sufferings of our brethren and sisters in slavery, they cannot perform acceptable worship unto our Heavenly Father. The same could be said if we choose indifference toward the sufferings of our brethren and sisters in Palestine today. Chase Street sits close to the border between Providence and Pawtucket. The entrance is unsuspecting in its appearance. Much like the surrounding neighborhood, it is tucked between modern restaurants and storefronts, a bus stop, stop signs. But its presence continually reminds me how our small, ordinary acts can shape the world when we act from a deep sense of consciousness guided by our moral strength. Elizabeth's legacy reminds me that, like the word ard, there are multifaceted ways we can make an impact with our time here on earth. We currently find ourselves at a crossroads. The land, with all its layers of hope and despair, is asking, what will we do with our grief? How will we take action? How will we use the sacrifices and gifts of those who came before us, like Elizabeth, for justice and moral clarity? What we do now will send ripples through time and space. Let's choose wisely. After all, our children are listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Nada. I think we're all aware of all this, but it's so important that we get reminded over and over again. Let me see now. We're going to sing our closing hymn, which is number 134. So please rise as you are willing and able. 134, Our World is One World.
Is one world that touches one, affects us all. The seas that wash us round about, the clouds that cover us, a rain that falls. Our world is one world. The thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate, we make a bridge or wall. Our world is one world. Its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are the rich or poor, who stand or fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed make many holes, but where our hearts can hear a different call.
Our closing words today is called A Circle of Healing by Starhawk. We are all longing to go home, to some place we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing, a circle of friends. Someplace where we can be free. And with that, hold fast, my church. Stay strong, live long and prosper, go in peace. Do what you gotta do to be with each other and hold each other in this community of ours, and we can make the world better. Love you all. Let's have some coffee. Randy, play us out. Thank you.
I just wanted to tell everybody that Nada Samih-Rotondo has written a book, All Water Has Perfect Memory, and it's, excuse me, a copy of the cover is on the cover of the order for service, and she's brought books to sell if you're interested in buying any. So please join us for coffee hour in the parish hall, and thank you all for coming and taking part in this wonderful service. Thank you.